For an accountant, you learn that when you start to analyze something, you have to know where you're trying to end up. And so you're taking the information that you have, that you took out of the records, you're working with that information to get to that bottom line and give you the answer. But I worked on a project for a long time while I was at ECK, and I thought it was a really important project. And it was going to be something that went out into the field to help people who were doing the record keeping. It wasn't moving forward. And finally, I came to the realization that this particular project, if the master needed it to be in the field, there would be no stopping it. It would have been done. But there was some reason why it wasn't time for it yet. And so I just got a lot of help, just common sense kinds of things, to help you understand why you were running up against a roadblock or why you shouldn't be doing this or that. And I rely on that a lot now. When I'm driving somewhere, I try to stay focused on where I should be, which way I should be going, the route I should be taking. There are just so many small things that are really big things that if we pay attention, choices that are the best for us. There are other ECK Masters in the inner worlds, and sometimes they'll come to help Sri Harold, the current living ECK Master, with something that Achela needs. So my time at ECK was just a time when I grew so much more aware of that inner connection with the Master. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I was getting ready to take my next initiation in ECK, and this was a really important one. And I was having a bit of trouble with somebody that was pretty high up in the ECK organization, and I didn't know whether I should take that initiation, and I was really struggling with it. So I did a contemplation, which is what we call it when we do a spiritual exercise. It's kind of a going within where we're opening the door to have whatever experience it is that we need to have at that time. And one of those inner masters came to me, talked with me, and helped me to understand more about the situation that I was bothered by, helped me to work through. The particular master was Rebazar Tars. This was before I went to Minneapolis, but while I was in Minneapolis, I'd had those kinds of experiences several times where the inner masters came to help me out with a situation. One time I was heading home from the office, and I was very frustrated because I couldn't get this particular situation to work out. I couldn't get to the answer. And I'm driving home, and all of a sudden, boom, like a lightning bolt, I was told what I needed to do in order to find that answer. I couldn't believe it. It was wonderful. And the next day I went into the office, and sure enough, put it together right away. That's the way the inner connection works for us, is if we put our attention on it, that's the responsibility that we have, because that help is always there on the inner for us. We just have to put our attention on it. One time I was driving down a street and I started to go through this intersection, and I got this stop sign flashed in front of my face. So I stopped, and sure enough, a car was going through the intersection that would have T-boned me probably if I hadn't been given the right information. And doing a spiritual exercise every day fine-tunes us so that we can keep that connection open. How things really work in our worlds that isn't necessarily obvious to the outer senses. If it's spiritual, it should be all good and wonderful and soft and kind and loving and perfect in every way. And sometimes it's not, because we have to finish whatever the karmic debt is that we came here with. Karma involves not just us individually, but families, communities, countries even. The reason for something happening isn't really obvious. We might have to understand more about it later when we're ready to understand it. I realize that what comes into us is either going to purify us or pollute. And that's not where I wanted my attention to be. I wanted my attention to be on the beautiful things in life. For me, has been having to let go of things that weren't moving me forward spiritually. I've come to understand after all these years that our spiritual journey isn't for something that we do just on Sundays or just one day a week or just when we sit and do our spiritual exercise for that half an hour or hour. It's an everyday, all the time journey. It's living what your spiritual understanding is and the things that are important to you and the things you should be concerned about for yourself. It's not anything that anybody else is going to tell you should be concerned about. It's what you come to understand as being important to you. There's no rush. We're on a journey that's taken us lifetimes to get here. Maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes to get here. I had a recognition one time of having been pretty far down the path of Eckankar, actually, in a previous lifetime that was lifetimes ago, and mistakes that I made in that lifetime that meant that I got to live a lot more lifetimes just to get back to that point at some point. Our journey is a long journey, and it is because it encompasses all the experiences. That's why we come to the lower worlds. Soul comes to the lower worlds to learn of its own perfection. Taking deep breaths, here in the moment of now, Sugmad is. Sugmad is our word for God. Here in the moment of now, God is. It always would refocus me. If I didn't understand something, if I was really struggling with something, if I was going off in some direction, and I would remember to repeat those words, it brought me back into focus. That's what the hue does too for us. When we get in a stressful situation and we don't know which way to go, if we can remember to sing this mantra, and it has the ability to calm us, refocus us to our spiritual center. In my lifetime, I've had things that have gone on, especially lately now that I'm in my golden years. These things keep happening. They interfere with our ability to grow old gracefully. And things do happen. But for me, I know that I'm going through what I need to be experiencing for my spiritual unfoldment, for my greatest spiritual unfoldment in this lifetime. And it's not for me to mentally go through, chop it up and try to understand it. It's just the way it is, and it's just my experience at this point in time. And so there's no sense in getting really upset about it. That I also see so much emphasis on love to make life better for each other. God's love for us and our love for God. It's going to happen in God's time.